Oh, okay.
Yeah.
See that? So that's what gives it that in and out effect going around here. Is the walnut, one side of it's wider than the other. What is so unique about this is you make one setup of 11¼ degrees, you take these blocks and you stand them up on their edge and you cut and you flip and you cut, and every time you cut you produce a block. You make 16 cuts, you've got a ring. The bottom, you just simply lay it down on the table. Same cut, same angle, same setup, don't change a thing. You've got this board at the bottom glued up in that fashion. You lay it down, and every time you cut and flip, you get a wedge. Up here, you get a block. Down here, you get a wedge. Same setup, same stop, same everything. They got to fit. They all come off the same setup and same cut. The way you glue your boards up. This board here, for instance, wingy. Put a piece of yellow heart in between, and this one's solid wingy, so you get this window effect. This will be a potpourri bowl. I'll finish turning this, put one of those big potpourri grills in the top of it with the birds or the flowers or something on it. This will cut off. This is just a turning aid, and it makes the bottom of the bowl. It's wrapped it in there and glued in. But that'll be a potpourri bowl. It's got the plywood in it. If this top up here moves, it's a solid piece of wood. If it moves, it can't affect this or cause this to crack because that plywood acts as a buffer, plus it's a decorative strip around there. Look neat when they're finished sitting on the table. Notice that the hurricane lamps, so they're fatter and less of an angle. You worry about a hurricane lamp tilting over, so you wouldn't want to make a bottom this narrow on a lamp. You want a lamp with a big bottom so it'd be stable setting up. Another pattern, maple, strip of yellow heart, vermilion, strip of yellow heart and maple. Glue that up into one board. Second board, right the opposite. Cut 8 pieces out of that, 8 pieces out of that, and you get this checkerboard effect. You don't have to do anything different. These are already glued up. You just cut them into wedges and glue them into the circle. When you put them together, you put one piece against the other one, and you put a couple of 3 pieces of tape on there to make sure they can't slip up and down. Everything you glue up like this, the whole outside of it's covered in tape, covered in masking tape. If you don't, the glue won't run to the inside, it'll run to the outside, and you won't get a good glue joint. So when you lay them down on the table, the joints open up. They got masking tape against the table down on the outside of the utensil. When you put the glue in there, when you fold it up, all that glue runs to the inside. It can't get out the outside, so you need to cover the whole outside with masking tape. Here's one of the small bowls that we do at the basic part of chromatic class at John C. Campbell. That's cedar and walnut with a sassafras bottom in it.
Float the bottoms in those?
What's that?
Do you ever float the bottoms, or do you always glue them in?
I always glue them in. I make them a little bit smaller. I leave an expansion crack around there. And there's one example of how the bottom's put in. Is flattened off. The outside is determined. This will be the outside of the bowl. Just made a little quick cut there, so we'll show what the bowl looked like when it's rounded. And then cut a rabbet in there, cut a flat in here. Now you turn that bottom to fit in there, glue it in. You've got either a compression or expansion on the bottom, and you can then after the glue dries, you mount it back in the chuck. I always expand. I go in and expand into a dovetail with my chuck. I think it holds better, and besides, you don't have to cut the tongue off later. You can go back and reverse it then and turn the outside and the inside, flatten this off, shape it any shape you want it to. So simple 2-step process. Here's another example of where I took a narrow board, yellow strip, red, vermilion, another narrow yellow strip, and a wider board. It's all one board, glued up, but one side of it has a narrow strip. So when you cut it, you have to flip to cut it. Cut, flip, cut, flip. When you glue it together, you get that jumping up and down effect. Changes the whole looks of it than it would if it went around straight lines. Changes the whole look, but you didn't do anything extra. It's just the way you glued it up, the way you cut it and glued it up. It's easy. And I think it gives it a really nice pattern, that jump up and down. Here's a ring that's playing one day and had some pieces left over. I forgot to flip them upside down, come around, and darned if 18 pieces didn't make a circle, and half of them are the smalls at the bottom, and the smalls at the top, and the smalls at the bottom. Just playing with it, and made a circle. Blew my mind. That's how I do that. Instead of 16, it's 18 pieces, I think. I said, how did you do that? So I don't know. I'm not that good at math. I came to an engineering friend of mine. He looked at it. He said, oh, it's a reciprocal. That's all I need to know. There's one of the small bows. This one was done with a faceplate. We used to use faceplates. We don't anymore. We use the chucks all the time now. This is kind of an interesting one. This is another urn. It's got some zigzags around it. If you notice, the purple goes under the red, and the purple goes over the red, and under and over. And you notice that these dots right here, these plugs, are in the joints. You take this cherry block, this one cherry block right here, and you make a cut across there with your saw blade. You got the saw set angle, you put that block up there with a block on each end, hold it in place, and just make a saw cut, fill it in with a purple strip. Clean the end up with a wood chisel after the glue dries, and you've got 1, 2, 3, you got 8 of them with a purple strip in them. At the same time, you put a red strip in the other 8. Now you come back. The ones that's got purple get a red strip. The one that's got red get a purple strip. When you put it together, you've got them zigzagging under each other. Again, it's not how you cut them and then lay them. It's just how you made the cut itself, and put the strips in there. There's no, it makes it easy. Zigzags all the way around.
That's my favorite one now. Do you dare to pass that around?
Sure. Jumping over and jumping under the plug. Let me say one more thing before you pass it around. This goes on the drill press table. Clamp it down like this. On the drill press table, swing the table around. And when this decorative ring here, before it was glued up, it was just glued together. It had the chevrons, the lines already in it. I put that ring up there and drilled these holes using this as a backboard. This is rounded a little bit. That's how I got the holes where the joints are, using this tool here. Oh, yeah, some fun stuff. Sure enough, chevrons. Chevrons can be really cool. Take me up, Bob.
3M tape do the same.
Yeah.
It's that shirt.
Dang.
Something about that shirt.
So you glue up a board. You got one at the top, one at the bottom. There's a couple of 3 small strips in the middle. You take it to the table with the regular arm saw or chop saw, whatever. You saw it up at some angle. Doesn't matter what angle. If you cut it at a real sharp angle, your chevrons will go up and down like that. If you cut it at a long angle, they'll go like this. So doesn't matter how you glue. You get them cut, you put them together, turn them over like that, and put them together, you got a chevron. You have to come back and cut an angle on these to make them into a circle after you get them glued up. But this size right here, I usually used 3. Here's an interesting phenomenon. Walnut at the top. This was 2 different ones because that's maple and that's honey locust. But there's one, cut them out, flip it over. Hey, I got a chevron to go around there, and it's got a walnut top and a different white bottom. What? Look at it now. Got a checkerboard effect at the top, at the bottom. Again, just the way I glued it up, by using different material here than they did there. You can make a checkerboard pattern like that, or you can make the walnut go all the way around. Just no matter how you glue it up. Okay.
You just got a saw cut, depth of cut, and lay in it.
Yeah, didn't cut all the way through. Just cut part of the way through. Okay, here's some blocks. These were glued up with a yellow and a red strip, all in the same piece of board that long. Cut these out, flip them over like that, put them together. 2 with a pattern, 2 without, 2 with a, hand me that checkerboard Christmas tree ornament there that's got the checkerboards on it. Should be one there that's got checkerboards. No, it's a Christmas tree ornament. Yeah, I see it down at the end there by the glue. Yeah, that one. Yeah, thank you. Yeah, that would pattern something like that. Now the other one I skipped. When this one I did put them all the way around. But that was not cut with this strip and then this added on and this added on. That was a glued up board. You cut the wedges out of it and put it together, so you only got to deal with however many pieces are in there. You're not dealing with a center ring and a top and a bottom ring. That way it comes out perfectly even because they were glued together. Cut all at the same time. Makes a neat Christmas tree with those sparrows going around it.
Is that the actual color of the wood?
Yeah, that's real ebony and real holly. The one in the middle, you can tell that white's a little lighter. That's the maple in the middle, and some kind of mahogany and yellow heart, I think. You can make small diamonds. Same thing as that confetti lamp down there. Put them together in that fashion, glue them up, put a big diamond on each side, trim that off. I've got some big urns I've made that have this pattern running all the way around the outside of them, 16 of them. So you can cut those diamonds smaller, but you better have a long, narrow hold-down stick when you cut those little ones. And that's very time-consuming because you've got to cut 12 of them to make each little hexagon. And then gluing them together is kind of tedious. Let me talk about gluing these together. These sides have got to be perfect. If you feel this one, they're not perfect. So I put the wedge in there, and sometimes it was problems. I finally solved it by taking a small drill press vise, putting plexiglass in there, a little piece of plexiglass, lining the jaws with plexiglass. Take these, they've got masking tape on one side of them holding it together. So you break it all apart and put glue in the joints, shove it all back together, wipe the glue off, put it in that vise, put the plexiglass up against each side of it, and these sides come out absolutely perfect. While it's set in the vise, you put a C-clamp across the end to give it some pressure in this direction, because when you press it in this direction, they'll spread out on you. So you put a big old C-clamp across the end right there and compress it in that direction. Man, when they come out now, they're darn near perfect. That batch that was over there that I passed around, hand me one of those, Bob, right there by the saw. Yeah. Feel the outside of that one. How smooth that is. You want to start one over there, Kit? Here's a setup for the little bitty diamond pieces. You can see they're just taped. They're loose in there. Here's one of these that hadn't been glued up. Excuse me. It's got some zebra wood at the top. That's pink ivory. That's trying to think what that is. It's bloodwood. Hang on, it finally came. And that's a piece of satin wood. That one really made a fancy deal. Here's a bowl on a pedestal. It's been sawed in half so you can see the construction. Now this is really old. We don't. It's been sawed in half. Here's the 16 segments. Here's a pedestal. The dowel was in there to keep these pieces from sliding when you clamped them up. A typical pedestal looks like this. You can see the dowel in the top, but it doesn't go all the way through. It did on this one. But we make sure it doesn't go all the way through anymore. So you turn this pedestal out of that, like that. That's veneer just in there just to give you these decorative rings. You never turn the pedestal and the bowl on the lathe at the same time. This is turned in one turning and the bowl itself part is turned in another turn, and then you join the two together. You put a tenon up here that fits into a recess in the bottom of the bowl. So you got a piece that's got a really narrow side angle. Make a little dish out of that, or a top for one of these big bowls up here. That'd make a great top for that bowl. You can wrap tape around here, but that doesn't help the top much. So that same stretchy tape, you start around it in this direction and wrap and wrap and wrap. You can pull the top together. So you can pull that whole group of segments together, top and bottom, at that angle. Because you can't wrap that tape around here. It'll slide right off.